Hi guys, welcome back to It's All Light. I'm your host, Natalie Bott, and today's guest is Kylee Shaffer. Hi Kylee.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I'm here from Utah and I grew up here in Utah. I grew up in Draper, which is actually where it's where you grew up, right?
Yeah,
Or did
yeah.
you just move there?
No,
You grew
we
up in
grew I grew
Draper.
up in Draper too, yeah.
Yeah, we grew up in the same place. It's so beautiful.
Mhm.
Um I am living in like the Orem area right now and I'm just working full time doing marketing and I also run a little film business on the side for fun just as like a creative outlet.
You're so
And
creative.
that's kind of my life right now. Like I feel like I wake up, I work, I go to the gym, I make dinner, and I do it again the next day. Like it's nothing
Mhm.
too exciting to
No,
be honest,
but
but
literally
it's simple in a good way, you
the
know?
quote I where did I see it today? But it's exactly what you're talking about. It's like life becomes magical when you find like how amazing the mundane can be. Like when you make the
Yeah.
mundane like your favorite thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where did I see that? But yeah, no, honestly, sometimes these routines make you the happiest you can be. So
Yeah.
I
I
love that.
honestly find so much joy in them. I'm like, I totally stop feeling myself when my life becomes chaotic and I don't have my routine anymore and I like
Yes,
start to crave it. So it's simple in like a healthy and positive way.
I love that.
Yeah.
And we'll do a broad what do you light up about? What do you love about life?
What do I love about life? I love everything about life. I am um a huge foodie. I
Mm.
think that somebody told me, one of my coworkers a few months ago told me, she's like, I really believe that we were just born to eat. We have kitchens to eat. We have cars to like go
Drive to
find
go
new
eat.
places to eat. She's like, I have legs to walk me to somewhere and like get some really good food. And I resonated with that in like the funniest way. But I really love trying new restaurants. I think it's so fun. I love the way that like food brings people together. I think I got that from my mom and my grandma, um, because it's just a really good way to gather people. And
Mhm.
that's something else I love. I love people gathering. I've learned that about myself this year that I love planning things and like helping provide opportunities for people to come together and just like network and meet each other and build friendships. And that's a really fun thing for me.
Yeah, you're really good at that too,
Um,
honestly.
you're so nice.
Like the parties you've thrown that I've gone to, I'm like, they're the best. They're so
I hope that
fun.
they're fun for people. I just think it's fun to get people together. Um, so that's something that I love. I love being outside. I love being with my people, my family. I also something that I really, I guess, light up about right now is um humanitarian work actually and like
Mm,
traveling. I feel like
I love that.
I feel the most myself doing that. I get to do it once a year and it's like my favorite part of my life right now,
Wow,
honestly. And
that's
it's only
special.
like 2 to 4 weeks of my year every year, but it's when I feel the most myself and I feel the most growth and the most impacted. And
Wow.
anyway, so
Yeah, I feel like you're the most impacted when you're like trying to serve other people. Like the
yes.
impact's always greater for the person trying to serve than probably the people we're serving. That's how I feel, at
Yeah.
least in humanitarian,
Yeah.
but it's like unlike anything else to grow in life. So, where are
Mm-hmm.
you going this year?
I am going to Bolivia in August to build
Oh,
classrooms.
that's
Yeah, I'm
awesome.
so excited. It will be so amazing.
Oh, cool. And do you speak Spanish?
Yeah, I do.
That's so awesome. And another fun fact Kylee didn't share is that she is like has an angel voice and has music out there. I was like waiting for you to say it. And I'm like, I don't know if she's going to share it, but I'm going to share it cuz your voice is you are so talented. So,
Oh,
everyone
thank
be
you,
sure to
Nat.
look up Kylee Shaffer. When I post about this episode, I'll post all her info so you guys can go see her amazing like photography, videography as well. Like you are so like just like hopefully people look this up on YouTube. Just you glow and you're just like have this calming yet bright energy. And I think hearing a little bit more of your story and your journey on today's episode, people will start to understand why. So, do you want to jump into that? Are you ready?
Yeah, what do you want me to start with? I'm like, there's so much to, I feel like there's Do we want to talk about health or about dating?
Let's start with like, I don't know, wherever you feel like it, but maybe health. Let's start there.
Okay. I just like this last 2 years, maybe I would say, have just been really, and I guess this totally goes into something that I light up about right now as well, because I have just really been trying to focus lately being the last 2 years actually, so really not lately, but just on like self-love and taking care of myself and taking care of my body and like going back to being a foodie. I'm like, it's okay to be a foodie and love food, but like fuel my body with really good things, that
Yeah.
like keeps me going and keeps me healthy. And I just am honestly so amazed at what like prioritizing your health does for every other part of life. Like, I don't think I realized that growing up, not because like it wasn't taught to me, because it was, but I just don't think it was until I really started focusing more on implementing certain things a couple of years ago that I was like, oh my gosh, my confidence is better. I feel better in my day-to-day everything. I have more
Yeah.
energy. Like honestly, even my relationships are better. Like everything is just elevated when I focus on taking care of myself, which has been really interesting. And you're super active too, so you probably have stuff to say about this too, because you're like an amazing runner.
I
You
love
do
to
like long
run.
distance running, right?
Yeah, I love to run, but I love that you were saying like everyone has their own little outlets that
Yeah.
like in the health world,
Yeah.
whether like whatever you eat and just how you move your body really does just elevate your life experience and makes other
Mm-hmm.
areas better. Like if I'm ever in a bad mood and I just go for a run, I come back and I'm already 10 times happier. It's like just a
Yeah.
matter of
Yeah.
doing hard things when we don't want to do them, and then
Mm-hmm.
like helps like I try to find the parallels into my personal life and like relationship
Yeah.
sides of things. But what do you feel
Mm-hmm.
like you said just more this year you've been focusing on it? What do you feel like helped push you in that direction?
Um, that's a good question. Honestly, I think it's like it's so anybody who is listening to this and in school, I feel for you because it was so hard for me when I was still in college
Mm.
to like prioritize myself sometimes and like my health because I was like working several jobs, I was studying all the time, and I feel like when I finally graduated a little over a year ago, I was finally able to like really prioritize what I wanted to prioritize. Not that I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
prioritize school because obviously I did because I graduated, but it's like really hard sometimes when you're in school to do that. So I
Yeah.
think when I graduated is when that started for me and I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Just a new chapter of
I
life.
yeah, I feel like I was like entering a new chapter of life in a lot of ways. Like in the obvious ways, I was closing the door to being in school in like my university years, but I was also completely opening this like new version of myself that I didn't really know was
Mm.
there.
Ooh, I like
And
that.
it was kind of like a like strong over skinny, if that makes sense. I think that that is such a
Mm.
huge thing because so many, it's like it's a thing for men and women, but I think a lot of women right now, it's like I just freaking hate diet culture and I
Mm-hmm.
hate that we think that we need to like
Look a certain
do
way
this
or
crazy amount of fasting and like we have to like rid ourselves of food that we think is delicious and we have to work out for 3 hours every day in the gym. It's like that stuff is not sustainable.
mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of times we do it because we have a mindset of like, I want to look a certain way. I want to look like these girls that I see on social media. I want to be pretty enough for this guy. I want to like
Oh,
be skinny,
so it's hard.
And all of that is just such bull crap. Like, and I think I finally
Mm-hmm.
realized that. And I was like, no, I'm doing this for me because
Yeah.
I want to be strong. And I think feeling strong is where you actually find confidence
Mm-hmm.
and where you actually start improving in everything else in your life because it's not about trying to fit like a mold. It's about growing more into you and like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have so much I could say
No,
about this,
I
but
love hearing you talk about it too because I feel like some people don't talk about it enough in a sense of like
yeah.
probably more people are struggling with it than we realize. Like
Mhm.
just how you feel in your own body. and
Yeah.
how strong looks different for everyone. You know, like
Mhm.
I've been watching, like, you're on a little CrossFit journey and it's awesome. I'm like, go, Kylee, because I do
I
CrossFit.
am.
I do CrossFit every now and again, but I think what I
Yeah.
love about CrossFit is the community and
Mhm.
it really does help boost like you and what you can do. It doesn't, you don't have to be like anyone else, but you get to just try to weight lift how you want to, or, you know, like
Yeah.
I've loved that culture of working out because it just helps you be strong for you, and
Mhm.
how your strong is different than everybody else's strong. And like that could be like if you're a
Yeah.
swimmer or a runner or a weightlifter, you know, like they
Mhm.
all prove and test you differently.
Right.
And I don't know, sense of, like the sense of accomplishment after like finishing a hard workout or a race, you know, like
Mhm.
that's just something everybody can have in their own ways,
Yeah.
which I love.
I totally agree. I think it's really um it's just really helpful to build healthy habits, I think,
Hmm.
more than anything. And I think especially in like obviously I'm still in this season of singleness, you know. And like
Ooh.
obviously I'm dating and like trying to, you know, find like a companion and whatever. But I think in this season of singleness that I'm in, like I've just realized how important it is to have healthy habits
Mm-hmm.
and to focus on like my physical health, but also my spiritual health, my emotional health, and like
Yeah.
healing that needs to happen, and like focusing on like holiness and on God and all these things, because they all actually are like this. Like they
They're
mesh
all
together, they
connected.
intertwine, they're not that different than we think that they are. And it's really an amazing thing to like be, you know, 26 and single, but be in a place where I'm like, I love my life and like I am okay being where I'm at. And like I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing, like, look at these amazing things I'm doing and look at
Yeah.
how strong I am, even though I'm in Utah and like a 26-year-old single woman. It's like, who cares? Like, look, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I think that it's such a good like perspective switch.
yeah.
You keep going, then I have another question for you.
No, you're good. That's kind of all. That was really all I was saying. It just helps with literally every aspect of life, even like dating mindset, you know?
Totally, which I'm
Which
excited. I
like
know you have
doesn't fully
thoughts.
make sense, but it also does in my
Mm-hmm.
mind. I don't know.
I like that you brought up the other aspects of health. Like there's
Hmm.
your physical health, your emotional health, like what other ones do you say? Intellectual, social, you know, like
Spiritual.
spiritual, yes. And I feel
Yeah.
like in light of like self-love, like that has been something like you hear all the time, and it's like, yeah, self-care, self-love. And I've been like pushing back on it just in the sense that it's like I don't want to focus so much on myself because I want to try to have a life that's focused on others. But
Hmm.
it's always back to like we need to do it enough so we have a full cup that we can then give more of. And I
Hmm.
think there's a fine balance, but it's so helpful to just be checking in with yourself. I mean, therapy is a wonderful way to
Yeah.
help yourself through different
Hmm.
chapters and struggles. But like just being a little bit more aware. Like my therapist is always like, do a little check in. How are you doing? You know, how are you doing spiritually? How are you doing mentally and
Yeah.
emotionally and physically too? Like, because there are some times, maybe multiple times within a month, where I'm just like, nah, I don't want to do anything, and I don't go to the gym, and I don't get outside. You know, like it's
Yeah.
just the give and take, and I just need to go see the ocean because it's literally just waves come and go, and like just all the aspects can be put out
Yeah.
there. So thank you for bringing that back up.
I love what you said about how it's like hard for you sometimes because you try to focus on others, because I'm the same way.
Mm.
Sometimes I'm like, I maybe need to focus a little more on myself and not like just completely drain myself for other people all the time, because
Mm.
then I like don't have anything left to like
Yeah.
give. Do you know what I mean? And
Mm.
something that I've realized um is that I think that I think that it's only when we have our relationship with God in check and our relationship with ourselves in check that we are like able to fully love others in the way that like, you know, like they need to be loved, and with like the pure kind of love that that is lasting and like meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been trying to think more about that lately too, because it's helped me flip my mindset to be like, oh, loving myself and taking care of myself actually allows me to propel myself even more to give to others,
Mm-hmm.
instead of like what's happened so much in the past where I'm just like empty my cup, empty my cup, empty it. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but I'm forgetting to fill it back up. Like, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Totally. And my mind goes to, as you were talking, like that true love, that like over encompassing love, like in, I've learned
Mm-hmm.
this in some relationships, it gets to the point where you like, and you have to, oh, sorry. I'm like, which one part should I start with? You like learn to love their weaknesses. And I
Yeah.
think that comes as you learn to love your weaknesses too. And like you're so much more open
Mm-hmm.
to love because you're like, wow, look at them loving me with all my craziness, you know? And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, I can love them even when it's something I don't like, quote unquote, love. And it just like
Mm-hmm.
makes you love them more knowing they're imperfect. Like
Yeah.
that is like when I have gotten to that point in certain relationships, like it just makes me feel so grateful that we can love that deep.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it starts with our relationship with God and like knowing that's the love he feels even when we mess up. Like
Yeah.
it's just such a powerful force, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just, it's like a godly love, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason that, okay, this kind of transitions into this book I've been
Yay!
reading.
Good.
It's
I'm
called,
excited.
it's called The Love Everybody Wants by Madison Pruitt. I'm going to hold it up for if you can see
On
it
YouTube. Yes,
on
so
YouTube. This is
cute.
what it looks like. It's amazing. I am not a reader, first of all. Like, you guys, I've never been a reader. It's not who I am. And I'm trying to be better, but it's true. But I like, am not kidding. I started reading this, and my favorite part of my night was coming home to read my book.
I love
I don't
that.
know if it's because it has a pink cover or if it's because it's
It's so
amazing or if
cute.
it's because of both.
Yay.
But she in the book talks about how like, and I think that reading this is also what has helped me shift my mindset so much lately. And it's brought so much healing, to be honest.
Mm.
But she talks about how, like, about that godly love, like what you were just saying. And she talks about how the reason that it's important to first focus on your relationship with God is because when we are close to God, we understand who He is.
Mm-hmm.
And when you understand who God is, you understand how He loves people.
Wow.
And when you feel that love coming from Him, you are better able to give it to others because you're taught how. It's like you can't do something without being first taught how to do it. And when we are close with God, instead of like casual with Him, we learn what that feels like, you know? And I just think
Mm.
that's so fascinating because I mean, it's hard sometimes. I think that we all go in and out of these phases of like being super, super close to God and then not being super close to Him. And it's like there totally is a contrast of what it feels like in each of those places, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like when I'm focusing on my relationship with Him, I am better able to love people like with their weaknesses, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And
Totally.
my relationships are so much healthier when I'm focusing on that.
Mm. That's so beautiful.
Even like when imperfectly, you know?
So, what are ways you come closer to God?
um, oh man, I feel like it's so different for everybody, but for me, I feel like it's just um a little slogan for my life right now. Anybody who knows me knows that this is true. I'm obsessed with miracles. I love them. I
Mm.
think that they're everywhere. I literally on my laptop, I have a There Will Be Miracles sticker. On my rear view mirror of my car, I have a sticker that says Expect Miracles. Like, I just think that they are a lot more, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they're a lot more accessible and present, maybe is what I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
say, than I think we realize they are. And I think a way that I stay close to God is acknowledging them and like,
Mm.
and thinking about like, okay, what miracles did I see today? Because they're always there. Like, I do not care what anybody says. There are always miracles in your life every single day. But if you think that there's not, it's because you're not looking for them and you're not seeing them because you're not looking hard enough. It's like a miracle doesn't have to be a big, huge, like, I feel like when we think of them, it's often like, oh, this person was, I don't know, diagnosed with cancer and was able to overcome it and like live. Like, yes, that's a huge miracle. Also, a miracle is like my alarm waking me up in the morning when I knew that I was likely to sleep in, or like me not crashing my car
Every
when
day we
I
drive.
was like slightly distracted and didn't
Totally.
see whatever. It's like, or even it's like, oh, I got this text today from a friend I haven't heard from in a while, and that really lifted my spirits. Like, what, like a little
Mm-hmm.
miracle that she would like think to text me, you
I
know?
love that.
So I love keeping a little miracle journal. I also have been working in the temple, and that has been
Yeah.
the biggest miracle in my life. I know that not everybody might have the opportunity to do that, but
Mm-hmm.
I think just going to the temple, whether you are working or going there to serve as like a patron or just going to sit on the steps, it's like being at that place is a really good
Mm-hmm.
place to feel God.
I love that.
But besides that, I would just say for me, it's like the really simple things like being in the scriptures and praying and like
Mm-hmm.
loving people, you know.
Yeah.
But miracles are so big and they're everywhere.
I literally just wrote that on a sticky note. I wrote expect miracles and I put it on my wall. So
Oh,
thank you.
yay. It
Because
makes
that
a
is,
difference.
it's
It
just something
does.
it's like I've done off and on in my life and
Yeah.
haven't really consistently done it since my mission, which was many years ago. And it's always
Mm-hmm.
like hard when I'm like, oh yeah, like what kind of spirituality was I at then and how am I now? And it definitely like changes so much, but it's like
Yeah.
we can still just be close to God and it might look different at different points in our lives, but
Mm-hmm.
it really just goes back to the simple things. And
Yeah.
honestly, sometimes I feel so blindsided of like struggles in my life and like, oh, I don't want to go through this. It's so hard. When in reality, it's like exactly what I needed because I had not been focusing on my relationship with God, and this pushes me right to God. And that's like
Yeah.
the number one reason we have trials. But then it gets me thinking, I'm like, oh, when my life was like going all right, was I this invested? So then it's like
Mm-hmm.
trying to create those routines of being as invested in looking for God every day in the scriptures and prayer and stuff like that. So this is such a good reminder.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad that you wrote it down.
No, it's in a
I love
pink
it.
pen too. So it's pink.
Love. I am pink. If you're not watching on YouTube, you wouldn't know, but I'm literally wearing pink. My nails,
It's so
everything
cute.
in my room. It's just,
I love it.
I am who I am.
Pink is honestly probably the best color. It's such a good color.
I'm in a pink phase, and it's not because of the Barbie movie. It started before.
Nice.
Anyway.
Speaking of pink though, what are some other insights you want to share from the book you've been reading?
Um, okay, first of all, if you haven't read this, you just have to go read it because there's so much to even go over that I literally like could not even try to scratch the surface. But um I think like the highlights, there was probably like 5 or 6 highlights, which we might not necessarily get to all of them, but
Mm-hmm.
she talks about how there's kind of like 2 parts of it. One, she talks about singleness, and then she talks about like relationships, which I love
Mm-hmm.
because it can be geared toward anyone, you know?
Yeah.
And she talks about how like holiness and focusing on your own personal healing and like developing healthy habits, kind of like we already talked about, how those 3 things should be like your 3 H's for singleness and like your 3 pillars for like what you're focusing on as you are single. And like even while still dating, those are just really good um pillars to have in your life and like come back to like ground you, you know?
It was
And
holiness. What were they again?
holiness, healing, and healthy habits.
Okay. I love it. I'm
Um,
writing that down too.
and she was like talking about how singleness is the most crucial season of your life because who you are here like determines who you are there, meaning like who you are when you are single is who you are going to be in relationships. And so it's like you want to go in to relationships being like the holiest, healthiest, most healed like version of yourself. And like yeah,
Mm.
there's not always going to be like situations where you feel like you're healed from everything, but I think that doing the work now to heal things that have been considered traumas in the past, or heal from relationships that have really affected you, like healing from those things now, I feel like, at least for me, propels me like miles forward so that I can be ready for when I do have somebody come into my life that I feel like is the kind of like man that I am wanting to be with, you know? And I love that she talks about that, because people just talk about relationships all the time. And it's never like, let's be positive about the stage that we are in instead of like wishing all the time that we're there. But she said, singleness allowed me to grow in my faith. It was a time I could fully devote to my friends and family, finding community and doing life with people who made me better. And she said, it was a time I could learn all about myself, what I liked, my weaknesses, strengths, and so much more. I could focus on becoming the best version of me. And she talks about how sometimes the waiting is the point, and how instead of being like, oh, it's going to be so worth the wait, it's going to be so worth the wait, which is true because it will be. But she talks about like, maybe the question is more like, what am I learning here? Like, what is God trying to teach me here? And how can I make a better use of the time that I have right now to be able to focus on God and myself and other people? Like, what can I do in this time? How can I like best give back? How can I grow in this? And I just really loved that, mainly because I feel like this narrative that I hear between a lot of people in dating right now is like, oh, dating just sucks. It's so just the worst thing ever to be single. And I don't think that's true at all. I think that each season is really a beautiful thing. And I don't think that being like negative about it is at all going to get us like where we're wanting to go. So I was just like praising her as she was saying all of this, because it needs to be said. Like, I think it does.
Yeah. It's a fine balance too, because like, I don't know, I just see people who like get so caught up on the one side that they're like, yeah, being single is the best, I don't even want to get married. Or even if they don't think that, they're living in a way that doesn't allow them to maybe move in a direction where they want to find someone to settle down with. But then on the other end too, it's like if you focus way too much on it, nothing's gonna happen. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You come across, it's just more a desperate living instead of in the middle, where it's like, yes, always be working on yourself, but there's still ways you can seek out what you want, like if that's your ultimate goal. And I've seen it done. I'm like, it can be done, and it's just the imperfect path of figuring it out.
I know. Yeah, I agree. She talks about too how like relationships that are centered on God are relationships that will last.
Ooh, I love that.
I really loved that, because I think that like I have a lot of thoughts about this and I don't really know how to articulate them and like make it make sense. But I mean, we've kind of already talked about the whole idea that like loving God allows you to best love others. And I kind of had an epiphany as I was reading this book. I think that, and I want to be really careful how I say this at the same time.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing a lot of people in Utah specifically, but also like people in my life that I love a lot, that have a really hard time with like relationships and like committing to relationships and being able to be in healthy relationships. And I think that there is like a direct correlation between casualness with God and healthy relationships. And maybe that's like a really bold statement, but I really, the more I think about that and marinate in it, I think it's true. And I think that if we're focusing on like our spiritual growth, and it looks different for everyone. I don't think that there's a right way to do that. I don't think there's a right way to be close to God. Like, it's so different for each person.
Yeah.
But I just think like when we are focused on those things, we're more focused on other people. We are more focused on like on love and serving. We are more humble. We are more open to relationships in general. We are
Yeah.
more like able to accept love, which is huge versus like people that I see that are casual in like their spirituality, which is like honestly, it's totally fine like that they choose to do that, and that's their choice. But I have seen a pattern, I guess is what I'm saying,
Yeah.
in their struggles to find healthy relationships because they're a little bit less humble sometimes. They're a little bit less able to accept love, which is makes it also hard to give it. Like, I just
Yeah.
think it's directly correlated, which is so interesting. And I feel like this book put it into words. And I was like highlighting as I was reading and out loud, being like, this is freaking fire. Like, this is what I've been trying to say for years. Like,
You posted those on your story. Are they highlighted on your Instagram? In
I
like a
don't think
highlight bubble?
so.
Well, if you
No,
highlight them, let me know. So I want to go
I
back and read them
will.
all. As you were talking, there's a talk from April 2019 General Conference called Careful
Hmm.
versus Casual. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. But I love that you said, like, our relationship with God basically can mirror our future relationships or even our relationships with our
Hmm.
families and hopefully with our
Yeah.
significant other, but just that level of I think it's kind of like a respect, like it's not casual.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it can be comfortable. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously I hope you're casual and comfortable with whoever you're married, but like
Right.
the sense of love and focusing on what's most important like shines through, and that like can make or
Hmm.
break a relationship. So I love that point. These are all gold. I'm like writing them all down, honestly. Sticky notes for days. I'll also put these in quotes so people can glean from them too. As we wrap up, are there any other like little pieces of information you want to share or things that have helped you? Favorite quotes?
Favorite quotes from like the book?
Or just in your life in general, like what helps Kylee? Because you're a great example in all of these areas,
Oh,
honestly.
you're so nice. I don't know. I think as we're just talking about like singleness, something from the book that really stood out to me is she talks about how like everybody always is like, oh, well, that relationship when you finally do find it will be worth waiting for, you know? But she's like, some things are worth waiting for. And then she's like, but let me ask you a question. And it's right here, so I'm just gonna read it because I don't want to mess it up.
Good.
But she's like, aren't you worth the wait? Your full becoming, your character's development, God's perfect plan for you and your future, all those things are well worth a little delayed gratification. Because in the waiting, we aren't just waiting, we are growing, we're being prepared for what comes next and who comes next. And then she said, God has not forgotten you. He is preparing you for something so big that you just can't see it right now. And I read that, and I think I like cried when I read it
I'm like
because
over here, like, oh man,
I
that's
know.
hitting me. Oh
I
man.
just, I think that it's hard because I think that it's really easy to sometimes feel forgotten about, and not just in dating. Like maybe it's that maybe you're like graduating high school and not going to college like everyone else is, or maybe you're like having a really hard time finding a job when everybody else is getting their dream jobs, or like this
Yeah.
doesn't relate to just dating, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's important to remember like your value doesn't change, like God has not forgotten you. And I just think like we are worth it, and like our journeys, even though all different, like our journeys to become who God knows we can become are worth everything. And it's like to
Wow.
get there and to get to that version of myself, like, is worth the wait, you know, even in like all the frustration, whether it comes from like jobs or relationships with friends or dating relationships or family or whatever. It's like it just is all worth the wait because it's all part of who I am supposed to be. And like, I know that she will be worth it, you know?
Wow. I love
So
just thinking of, instead of like it's worth the wait, it's like the wait is worth it.
yeah,
Like.
like it's about the weight. That's the point, you
And
know.
well, you think about anything in life, like if someone's practicing to perform a number or something, like it's in the practicing that they're growing. And then, yeah, the number's
Mhm.
done and over, or like any running race, honestly, too. Like the whole bulk of what you get from it is training, and then the race is
Yeah.
just one day. Like it literally is just one day that you
Hmm.
spent hundreds of days preparing for. So it's like
Yeah.
in those 100 days. So I love that, like that can help us remember how just special this time period is. And it's not
Hmm.
gonna just magically go away. Like when we do find our person, like it's still just not, like there's gonna be something else that comes up.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
singleness like is just one of the trials that we go through, and then like marriage will be wonderful, but also either bring new struggles or just life goes on and there's always something. So it's like
Hmm.
just really learning to just enjoy right now is so
Yeah.
key. I love that we kept coming back to that like throughout all our little conversations. So
Yeah.
oh, wonderful. Kylee, thank you so much for giving your time today and sharing your lovely insights and your journey, like holiness, healing, and healthy habits. Like, you are exemplifying all of those, like, so gracefully. I hope you know. And it's, like,
Oh my
so
gosh,
fun to be
very
like,
imperfectly, I need you all to know.
well, that's,
Like,
I mean, like, I think that's
holy.
part of the beauty of it, though. Like, when you can see someone unapologetically living with, like, not doing things perfectly, it just makes everyone feel better because we're all in the same boat. So
Yeah, so true.
your example
Thanks for
is
having me.
amazing. Everybody, you can find Kylee on Instagram, and we'll link it when I post the episode. And just go be holy, go heal, and go build healthy habits. Like literally, I'm like, and expect miracles and enjoy the waiting. Literally, all my sticky notes on my
Yes.
walls. This has been a great
Yes, yes,
episode.
yes.
I'm gonna go
Retweet.
read that book too, so it's on my list. So
Yes, please do.
everybody,
And then tell me all of your thoughts.
oh, 100%. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. Bye.